What up, gamers? This is where the GamerManAdam extra content is gonna live. This video is about why I left the video game industry. How much did I make in the game industry? How much overtime did I work? Did I enjoy it? Why am I not there anymore? Enough yapping. Maybe I should just tell you why what? Jesus Christ. Why? You know what I'm trying to say. I, GamerManAdam, will tell the truth and only the truth in the court of law. I went to video game development school, graduated with a diploma in game design in 2019. I went for a one-year program at Vancouver Film School for $35,000. 1 year. I still got the student loan. There's no interest. Okay, I'm financially stable. It's just there's no point in paying it off yet. But that was not a cheap year of my life. Vancouver Film School is a place where their game design program is extremely highly regarded. And I graduated from there, and I would still recommend it to people. And people are gonna ask, I'm not in Vancouver, so what does that matter to me? Well, a lot of people ask me, can I just learn game design on my own if I was interested in it? Or should I go to school? You can learn a lot online. So much of Blender and 3D programs, game engines, Unreal Engine and Unity Engine, they're free. You can just download them and make a 3D penis and throw it in there, bro. You could do it. But what I say is you can learn a lot, but there's always going to be some gaps. You might learn how to be a 3D artist, but how many artists are you connected with in the industry? If you go to school, your whole connection on LinkedIn and social circle is all these people from school. The first job I got out of school was because a classmate of mine got contacted for a job, and he said, honestly, this job doesn't fit my skills, but there's a guy, Adam, let me connect you with him. He's probably perfect. And guess what? That's the company that hired me. I don't want to say it's all about connections, but it's a big part. It's a big part of any industry. You're always going to have a leg up the more people you know when you're going into that industry. If I had to start again, would I go to school for game development? If I was going into the industry, I would. If you can afford it, yes. I even took a student loan, but it's still worth it in my opinion. I learned programming, I learned 3D art, and I learned level design. Then when you go out into the industry, you kind of perfect one of those and become, an artist, a designer, whatever it is, a writer. I liked all three, so I practiced all of them. And the first job that I got was as a 3D generalist. I did a little bit of coding. I did mostly art, 3D props, texturing stuff in 3D software. When it was time to graduate, I had my portfolio, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Look, this is what I can do for you guys. And my first job offer, guys, from the big boy downtown, EA. My first job offer was from EA 2 weeks after graduating. And boy, oh boy, it was minimum wage was the pay in a place that's 45 minutes away. I was probably gonna have to move, maybe even longer, an hour away. And yeah, I just paid a lot of money to go to school and grind it. And then my first job offer was for minimum wage. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't super talented yet, right? So if I didn't get another job offer, I was gonna have to take this one to go work on NHL 2021 on the QA team. QA is like quality assurance. They're the bug testers, the game testers, documenting bugs, helping the development team, who's the smart people who get paid more money to then fix those bugs. In the interview, they invite you in, right? And EA, right? It's a huge company. So what do they have? They don't just have an office, they have a campus, okay? There's thousands and thousands of people who work on site. They bring you in. It's like a university building, and they give you a tour. They gave me a tour first to show me, hey, this is the basketball court, this is the turf soccer field, this is the gym. There's people, their whole life revolves around going to work. And that'd be sweet. You go there, work out, gym, play soccer after work. Honestly, it was cool. I would love to have a basketball court at my workplace. Then we got to the business. We're talking about the job. Back and forth, you're the right fit, answered questions. And then after, when we talked about salary, I remember he was like, yeah, it's like minimum wage, hopefully that's not a problem. And I was like, I remember being like, yeah, it's definitely something I wasn't expecting, like a little bit of a problem. Like, I didn't know what to say. That is exactly my reaction. And he was like, yeah, we'll talk to the manager and see what we can do. And I went home defeated, man. I was like, dang. 1 week later, that friend from school I mentioned hooked me up with a job interview. So instead of making like 30-something thousand at EA, I went to this other company and I said, hey, I'm looking for around like 42,000 to 38 or something. I just asked for a little bit more because I would rather work there. And they offered me 42, the top of what I asked for. I know that was a long intro just to get to me getting in the game industry, but I know some people might watch this who are interested in the game industry. So, So boom, your boy is starting as a 3D generalist 2 weeks after graduating. Let's go at $42,000. Benefits and all. Canadian, by the way, for those asking. I live in Canada, so Vancouver's a very expensive city, so that's not very much money, but I was happy either way. I was stoked. The hard part is getting your first job in the industry. After that, things get easier to move around. So 3D generalist title. I did a little bit of programming. Mainly, I was texturing and creating 3D props. I was a 3D prop and environment artist is what I would kind of call it, with a little bit of code. Sometimes I had to read through stuff, see what's going on, but I was working, creating props, and then you put them in the game engine, then you put the textures on them that you painted and created. And man, for those first 6 months, I was vibing. So I wasn't making a ton of money, 42,000. And after I was there for about 6 months, I was fully integrated into their system. So they started to give me more work. And I'm sure you've probably heard about the overtime in the video game industry. It's kind of something that a lot of people work. A lot of overtime gets worked and you don't get paid for overtime. That's just like how it is. Instead, it was like projects. Hey Adam, we need you to finish this project by Wednesday. If you don't get it done, just try to get it done. That's what they would tell you, when really that means like, if you don't get it done by then, you gotta work overtime. And so I started working overtime, like an hour a day, every single day. Then it was 2 hours a day, because the faster you get and the better you get, just like a lot of jobs, they just give you more work. I stayed another year or so, getting raises here and there. I was close to $50,000 in salary. So, I'm still working a lot of overtime. And I remember one of the days asking one of the guys there, because I was like 22, 21 maybe at the time. I think I was 21. And I asked the guys, they're like around in their 30s, and I was like, do you guys ever get tired of working overtime? Like, we're just here all the time. We don't make that much money. And I remember one of my coworkers, he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, you're like the youngest out of us here, Adam, but after a while, you just kind of get used to it. And then he walked off. And that was in a group of like 5 of us. And man, that was the moment I knew. I was like, I can't do this forever. And the truth is, I had friends that I graduated with from game school who got hired at a company that doesn't believe in overtime. There's some big companies that do it really, really well. They don't make their people work overtime, and they're still game studios and making great games. And really at the end of the day, it comes down to what company you work for. When you go into games, you got to get a little bit lucky to work for a company that respects the boundaries, respects the work-life balance, and wants to pay you well. Like in every industry, there's good companies and there's some not so great companies. So I was determined to get a new job. I was going to find one of those new companies that would respect me for who I was. Say it, respect, you know what I'm saying? So every time I work a 10-hour shift most of the time, normal day at work, I'd come home and then boom, straight to the portfolio for multiple hours. Because your portfolio is kind of what defines you in the game industry, especially when you're like an artist or level designer or environment artist. You got to make beautiful things, and then you got to document them for people to find you and see your portfolio. And I did that for another 6 months. I worked like 16-hour days, and I really burned myself out. I had a nice portfolio, but I didn't even want to apply to jobs now. I was so burnt out, and I was just like, I don't know if I can do this, because even when you go to the new job, you still got to work on the portfolio to make sure you can get the next job. Again, that's just how you upgrade in any industry. You get better at what you do and you move up. But when you do too much of anything, it gets you, right? It gets you a little bit. And this industry, if you want to level up over time, it's a grind. And so I started thinking, not great pay and lots of overtime, started making me think, man, maybe I've always wanted to start my own business. Maybe I should just do that. Because I'd probably work the same amount of hours, but the ceiling is just way higher, And I'm an entrepreneurial guy. I love that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll talk about that within the Patreon, huh? Well, business. And I decided to save up as much as I could. I stayed one more year, or maybe it was 6 months in the industry, just saving $1, eating like I was back in college, craft. What did I just say? That didn't even make sense. So I decided to stay 6 months, or maybe it was a year, longer in the industry and save every single dollar that I could. I ate like a college student, craft dinner, ramen noodles, extremely frugal to be able to quit the job and try my own business. That was about 3 or 4 years ago that I saved all that money, quit the job, and I've been self-employed ever since. And that's another video coming about what YouTube channel did I start for the last 3 to 4 years that I've been self-employed with and all that. When you do something 24/7, you lose a bit of the passion. That's just how it is. So when I was working in games, I stopped playing games. But when I stopped working in games, I started playing games again. That made sense, right? Yeah, so I started playing games again. And that was what started this channel and the idea of GamerManAdam over the last little while. With insider knowledge of game design and the game industry, I figured I would start this new venture of GamerManAdam. My final words will be that I left the industry because I was working a lot of overtime at the company that I was at. I had friends who worked at the same time who worked no overtime. And guess what? A lot of them made a lot more money. There's a lot of luck involved in any job path anyone takes. You never know where you're gonna get when you start one job or what it's gonna be like. They're not going to tell you in the interview, hey buddy, we're going to need you to work a lot of overtime for free. And I didn't get lucky in those few companies that I was at. But do I regret it? I do not regret it at all because it's brought me to where I am today. And as corny as that sounds, it is true. I'm making a video on the main channel that's about what the game industry is going through right now. There's been a lot of layoffs, a lot of company closures. So keep an eye out if you're interested in this, in the game industry in general. But just remember, you know, too much of anything can be bad for you. Except gambling. That is the gift that just keeps on giving, you know what I'm saying? Thanks for stopping in. I hope to see you back for the next one. Is my head really that big?